Welcome, Zeb here. Today we're gonna try to rank the studio albums by Mr. Mike Oldfield. I won't be including Tubular Beats, which basically is Mike Oldfield and also Mike Oldfield and York remixes. I do in fact enjoy the remix of Ommadawn. This version may or may not have spawned the excellent final album he released called Return to Ommadawn, which we'll come to a little later. I'm not including the complete Mike Oldfield, which is an excellent overview over his career from 73 to 84 or 85. The beauty with this his deluxe series is that he added some B-sides and he even added 4 live recordings. Again, all excellent. And I'm not including Mike Oldfield, the best of 92 to 2003. Why? Because it's the best of. The best thing with this is CD2, which includes rarities and mixes. And I won't include his collaboration album with Pekka Pohjola, which also is excellent. And I won't be including his album with his sister, the Sally Angle. So let's dive straight into this. And of course I'm not ranking any of his live albums or DVDs. If you need to check out any of his live stuff, check out the Tubular Bells BBC 73 or Tubular Bells II DVD live 92 or Exposed live 69. So yes, let's get into it. Second place, Mike Oldfield, Earth Moving, released in 1999, 89, I'm sorry, and this is kind of Where Do I Go Now album. He enlists great musicians on this album. The problem is, for me, it is incredibly dated. You get songs that he tried, he wanted to become hits, like Innocent, Holy, probably Hostage, I think may have been a single. And this is like, if you like Moonlight Shadow by Mike Oldfield, this is 9 different configurations in a way of that song. So that's at the very bottom of my own personal ranking. Next, Mike Oldfield. Before this album was released, he promised us a rock album, and oh boy was I disappointed with Man on the Rocks. First of all, the vocalist he added on this album, Luke Spillinger, Luke something, just didn't fit the role, in my opinion. Those of you who got the instrumental versions or Mike Oldfield song versions will probably agree that Mike should just have sung the entire shit himself. And I was kind of worried because I knew Mike Oldfield were about to retire. Most fans knew he was about to retire, and it would be such a shame after the excellent music of the Spears if he went out and farewell with Man on the Rocks. Noted songs on this. I do enjoy the very last song on this album. I Give Myself Away, and Nuclear isn't too bad, but besides these two songs, for me this is to be avoided. Moving on. Mike Oldfield Islands. Of course, Mike Oldfield had the mega hit Moonlight Shadow, and on this album you can hear a kind of a compromise between good old Oldfield, let's call it that, instrumental Oldfield side A, or the first track here is a 22-minute instrumental, and there are parts here that are incredibly good, and there are parts that are not that good. Side B opens with the title cut, Islands, which have Bonnie Tyler on lead vocals. I'm sorry, Mike, I'm not a huge fan of Bonnie Tyler. Then we get a fun song, a decent song called Flying Start, which was done with his old bandmate Kevin Ayers, which was in Soft Machine and went solo. And when he went solo, he added Mike on bass, later on guitar. So that's a decent song. Then the rest of it is just forgettable. We get North Point with Anita Hegeland on vocal. We get Magic Touch with Jim Price. We get The Time Has Come with Anita Hegeland on vocals, and also she sings the last song, When the Night's on Fire. So yeah, my third least liked Oldfield album. Next we get The Millennium Bell, aka Art in Heaven, I suppose. And I've always thought of this as not in the context of the music, but if you see the bells here, it looks like all of these bells are giving you the name 4. And in fact, many people have noticed that this might be Tubular Bells 4. I'm not sure. The music here, each time I put this on, it's like it's okay, but nothing sticks. If I play this album too, and I'm finished with it, I'm left with the second song in my head. Oh mama, pachamama, oh wacha pachapapa, boyala pachapama, which isn't a masterpiece at all. But there are a couple of interesting bits and pieces here. Mastermind, it's a decent song. The title cut, The Millennium Bell, it is alright, but there's a reason why it is this low on my list. Next up we have Mike Oldfield, Light and Shade, which he did in 2005, released 2005. Here he kind of flirts with more techno, ambient music. Of course, Mike Oldfield is the godfather of ambient, if you like, but here he kind of combines a lot of his old school type of music with very modern, too modern, way too modern Fruity Loops and other digital artifacts. There are some incredibly nice guitar playing on some of these songs, and if he would choose not to have these on this album, it would be lower in my ranking. Why is this so low, you may ask? Well, because it's a very patchy album. There are a lot of songs. It's a 2-disc. First disc called Light, second of course called Shade. Here we have a angry picture of Mike. This album isn't bad in any shape or form. It's just way too long. It could have been an excellent single album if it ditched 2 or 3 of those techno songs and maybe removed the drums on some of the more chill out songs. We move on. Next we have Voyager from 1996 by Mr. Mike Oldfield. And here he tries, well, he have done a lot of Celtic songs before, during the 70s, also in the 80s, but here he goes full on Celtic, ambient Celtic music. This album is decent, maybe more than decent. It's very decent. If you don't know this album, I urge you to check out the last song called Mont Saint Michael, which is maybe just as good as anything he did. Next up, it is the Tubular Bells Part 3. And oh boy was I disappointed when this came out. But in time, I kind of learned to enjoy parts of it. There is the excellent song called Serpent Dream, which again is fantastic. There are a couple of other interesting bits. There are the tune Outcast, which is okay, The Source Secret and Far Above the Clouds, which also is okay, but it was such a letdown after Tubular Bells 1 and Tubular Bells 2. But I understand why this is released and recorded and is Tubular Bells 3, but it took me some time. Next up, it is Tres Lunas, his ambient, I'm not sure if it was a return to form in any shape or form, but this album is very chill out, and it's the perfect album to put on if you're eating dinner or having friends over. No song really stands out on its own to me, but the album is good. It's not excellent, but it is very good. And what more to say? If you haven't heard it and you like chill out music anno 2002, this should do it for you. Next up we have Guitars, released the same year as Tubular Bells 3. And the story goes that Mike recorded everything on guitar, with of course probably MIDI interface or some kind of jiggery when it comes to the bass, keyboard sounds, even the drum sounds. Mike claims that everything stems from him playing the guitar or using the guitar as more than a guitar. Some people might find this album a little bland, but considering this is 1999 in Mike Oldfield world, it is a very good album. If you don't know it, you should check it out. Again, no particular song points out. It's a short and a very nice, relaxing album. Some will crucify me for placing this so low, or yeah, but it is the Songs of Distant Earth. I have another copy of this with another cover, and that one is supposedly featuring some CD-ROM tracks. I believe it may be a game or something like that. This is also a very chill out album, released 1994, and this is also one of those Oldfield albums where nothing really sticks out. It flows very well. again, it is an album. If I put it on, I play the entire album. Moving on. Heavens Open from 1991. The thing with this album was that Mike Oldfield knew was his last album for Richard Branson's Virgin Records. And think about it, 1973 until 1991. There's almost 20 years living in Richard Branson's prison, or whatever you call it. Side A is pop, rock, reggae songs that Mike Oldfield sings himself, each and every song. And some of these are, in fact, quite good. Make, Mr. Shame, Give Me Back. I don't mind them at all. But the the reason this album is maybe not that high up, but the reason I placed this album here is all of side B, music from the balcony, which is seen as maybe Amarok leftovers, or Amarok. It is a kind of a continuation of Amarok, and he gets Simon Phillips back on board playing the drums, so you get real drums. I weren't sure if I were to include Tubular Bells 2003 or not, but I did, solely on the fact that it is, of course, a studio album. Maybe it don't belong in the ranking, maybe it do. We all know Mike never were truly happy with his original recording of Tubular Bells. He remixed it, he re-recorded it, he made Tubular Bells 2, 3, Millennium Bells, blah blah blah. Best of, let's not forget Best of Tubular Bells, which I thought was a joke when I saw it in the record store, and I never bothered picking it up. But considering this is 2003 and Mike Oldfield is using a lot of digital equipment, it is a good rendition of Tubular Bells, but to me it will never ever beat the original Tubular Bells. Next up, yes, it is Discovery. By this point, 1984, Mike Oldfield is a super duper superstar. Everybody wants a piece of action of poor Mike. This is also a more commercial album, but thankfully not everything. We get a couple of hits like To France, Poison Arrow, Tricks of the Lights, but we also get some great rock and roll songs like Discovery, and we get the incredibly great The Lake, which lasts 12 minutes, and for me is the definitive high point of Discovery, or Discovery and the Lake as it's known. This is one with bonus tracks, and In the Pool is a cool tune. Bones is great, Afghan is great. I never got to purchase the 2-disc or 3-disc edition of it, so I'm happy to have it anyway with the bonus tracks. Next up, again I thought, should I include it, should I not include it? Well, I included The Killing Fields, which was a soundtrack to the movie Killing Fields. Movie is kind of heavy, and so is the music on this album. I believe most of this album was in fact recorded on a Fairlight CMI synthesizer, and it is a tough listen. I'll tell you right away, it is a very tough listen. I'm not sure. To me, this stands alone outside the film. but of course, the music fits the film, but you don't have to watch the film to enjoy or try to enjoy this album. I like everything. There are one or two ballads on this album, like Etude and yeah, two or three others that are ballad-ish or not that heavy on things. To say it very simple, The Killing Fields is a very interesting one-off album in Oldfield's catalog, and I should maybe have placed it even higher when I think of it. But we move on. Yes, he's free from Richard Branson's clutches, and he signs to Warner Records, and he enlists he enlists Trevor Horn to produce it, and Mike does again, like in the old days, everything himself. It's not a masterpiece, but it's damn near a masterpiece. Blue Saloon is great, Sunjammer is great, Sentinel is great, Tattoo is also very interesting. Weightless is one of my very favorite songs from this album. And also Trevor Horn produced it with Mike Oldfield, and Tom Newman was back in town. If you don't know Tom Newman, well, he worked a lot on all the Oldfield albums from the 70s. We're moving on, trying to make this quick. Crises, 1983. This is, of course, Mike Oldfield's super mega breakthrough We All Love Mike album. The funny thing with this album is, well, the A-side is 21 minutes, called Crisis. And yes, Mike sings again. Not for the first time, not for the last time, but it was viewed as very rare that Mike sang. Side A, I love it. We're moving on to side B. Opens up with the evergreen Moonlight Shadow, which I like, but I'm sick of it. I don't need to hear it again. It's a good pop song, no doubt. You can clearly hear that his inspiration is the Shadows and the guitar player in Shadows, which name eludes me right now. Then we get In High Places with John Anderson from Yes on vocals. Again, a very good pop song. We get Foreign Affair with Maggie Riley on vocals. It's a good song. Then we get Taurus 3, which is a beautiful acoustic guitar, Spanish-based short little ditty. And it ends with a not that good song, Shadow on the Wall, which is a rocker. And maybe my problem is the vocalist on Shadow on the Wall, which is Roger Chapman. And you all know his vocalizing is sort of an acquired taste, if you like. And bonus tracks here, you get Mistake, you get Crime of Passion, you get the beautiful Jungle Gardenia, and you get a couple of 12-inch mixes from the EPs or singles. Next up, it's Platinum. Mike Oldfield has recently had a little break from music, and he enlisted himself in a sort of a program where they kind of brainwashed him in a way, to say it very easy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is tons of info about it, even a little documentary on YouTube about it. And Mike said, yes, it saved my life. And it also opened up, it took away a lot of his demons, as he said. Here's a variation of the same album, Airborne. I think this was a Canadian only or US only. Um, and yes, after this brainwashing thing, he started to perform live. So we got the brilliant Exposed double LP with the fantastic Tubular Bells with drums all over it. Pierre Moulin goes crazy. It's a beautiful live album, but this is of course not that album. It is Platinum, the studio album. It is fantastic. Side A is all Platinum, which is a masterpiece. We get his little take on punk rock, which is called Punkadiddle, which kind of moves from punk to disco to nonsense or something. Then we get the cover version called I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin, and it's okay. Then we get the beautiful, the great polka, which is a polka, and I love it. Wait, I'm reading the bonus disc here. So sorry. Well, as I said, it opens with Platinum in 4 parts on side A, all excellent, especially where he steals a Philip Glass theme called North Star. Side B opens with a beautiful ambient thing that goes absolutely nowhere, which I love, Woodhenge. Then we get Into Wonderland, which on every other edition before this one was called Sally, which in fact is a completely different song. Sally, I'm Your Gorilla is the full title of it. And this tune was on the very first pressing of Platinum and was replaced with Into Wonderland. But you may look on your CDs or LPs and see, hey, I got the song called Sally. Well, it isn't Sally. If you do a search on YouTube for Sally, I'm Not Your Gorilla, you can clearly hear it's a different song than Into Wonderland. The only thing in common is the very first 3 or 4 seconds. So we get Into Wonderland, which I like. Then we get Punkadiddle, which I just talked about. And it ends with I Got Rhythm, which I also mentioned. There are a great live studio session version of part 2 of Platinum, and the beautiful North Star, which I think only was a single release, and also Blue Peter, which also was a single release. And this deluxe CD adds a Wembley concert from late May 1980, and it's very good. The concert is fantastic. We're moving on. I'll try to do it a little quicker. Next we got QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II, named after her boats. What to say about this album that hasn't been said? It's a great album. It opens up with Towers 1, 10 minutes of pure genius. I think Phil Collins is involved in a couple of these songs. We get Sheba, a great sort of ballad. We get the drum heavy Conflict, which is fantastic. We get the ABBA cover, Arrival. And yes, I like the ABBA version, but Mike Oldfield, as he usually does when he covers other artists, he keeps the essence of the original song, but he magnifies, I don't know how to say it. He makes it his own in a way. Then we get Wonderful Land, which is a Shadows cover. Again, beautiful. Next up, Mirage, sort of a little heavier on the drums again, and some more. I think both Mirage and Conflict, they sort of go together in a way, or it's the yin and the yang of those songs. Then we get the title cut QE2, 7 minutes of pure heaven. Then we get the short song called Celt, which leads into Molly, which is the ending, and it lasts 1 minute. Bonus track, you get Polka, and you get a single version of Wonderful Land, and you get a rework of Shiba called Shiva, which was kind of pointless to me, but it was fun to hear Mike Oldfield add vocals, real vocals, not just vocoder, on this song. And the bonus disc is live from the European Adventure Tour 1981. That is in Grügehalle Essen, Germany, 1st of April 1981, and it is fantastic. Any 80s live Oldfield is a treat. We're moving on. Amarok, yes. Again, a Mike Oldfield album, which he does about everything himself, I believe. This even contains a health warning. I'll read that quick for you. This record could be hazardous to the health of the cloth-eared nincompoops. If you suffer from this condition, consult your doctor immediately. Well, there is some truth to this kind of health warning, because at times it's very quiet, very quiet. Boom! It all explodes. And it's a great album. It's all instrumental. There are some voices. There is a fake Margaret Thatcher ending, which isn't superb. I don't mind it, but 60 minutes of music, and the last 15 or so contains this speech. I could easily have edited down the ending about 10 minutes or so, but it is an incredible work of art. Amarok, to many, it is his best album since Incantations. So if you know what I'm talking about, you might agree, or you might see their point. Next, it's the fantastic music of the spheres. Sorry for my bad pronunciation. Released in 2008, and this is Mike Oldfield collaborating with ex-Soft Machine member Carl Jenkins. I think he did all the arrangements. I'm not sure. He did in fact produce it with Mike Oldfield. And this is like Tubular Bells or any of his long form album. It all goes into each other, and this is a beautiful journey. Some will not agree that this is a better album than Amarok. Sure, I can understand that, but I've listened to Amarok a zillion times, and of course I've listened to this also a lot of times, but not as many as I've listened to Amarok. But I love this album from start to finish. So you probably have figured out we're in the very top Oldfield by now. Next up, it is 5 Miles Out, released 1982, and this is a beautiful album. All of side A is called Taurus 2, and it lasts for 25 minutes, and it's a masterpiece. It's stellar. It's everything I love from Mike Oldfield, with some extras. Side B opens up with the, for me, filler song, Family Man. I have nothing against it. It is a perfectly composed pop song, but I don't need to hear it ever again. Then we get the very calm and soothing Oribadu at 13 minutes long. Then we get the Mount Taide, and I believe Carl Palmer from ELP is on this tune. and ends with the fantastic rocker 5 Miles Out. It is a masterpiece. Bonus tracks here is Wahlberg, The Peak, which was the B-side. We get the demo version of 5 Miles Out. We get the 5 Miles Out tour, brilliant, from Cologne, December 82. And we also get the 5.1 version of 5 Miles Out. And this is a no-brainer if you can find it still, the 2 CD and 1 DVD version. It's a no-brainer. Buy it. Of course, you probably have to buy. You probably have to spit out 80 hours or so. I'm not sure. Next up, yes, it is Mike Oldfield's latest, and it will forever be Mike Oldfield's latest because he's retired. And thank God he did this album, because it is a masterpiece. To me, it is a masterpiece. It's way up there with everything he did in the 70s. And again, he just there's just 2 suits. Return to Ommadawn Part 1 and Part 2. So it's 42 minutes of Mike doing what Mike knows best. And there are no vocals except some samples which he tweaked from the original Ommadawn, which we will come to. And I am lost for words when it comes to this album. If you have had a bad day, if you're having a bad day and you need to get your brain down a little, take a put on Return to Ommadawn by Mike Oldfield. You won't be let down. Next we have Incantations, and the original cover looked like this. The deluxe edition looks like this. And yes, I know it's a little worn. That's just because I've played it so many times. And for those who remember, when this was released, there were a slight error on CD1. So I did as many others. I sent in an email, and I was in fact sent a new copy of this one. There were a little click, or there were an error, I think, during part 3 or 4. But yes, Incantations. The only downfall for me with this album is it is maybe a little bit too long. It was released as a 2 LP set, and there are parts, especially during the 3rd part, which could have been edited down, but then again, I don't think he could have managed to edit it all down into one single LP. Part 1, Part 2 and Part 4, I love everything on it. There aren't anything that I don't like at all. As I said, Part 3 have a couple of themes that I could live without, but I'm glad it's there because it shows some other sides of Mike that we hadn't heard before, and which will be prominent on the album after this, Platinum, which we went through. This is again a masterpiece by Mike Oldfield. Never mind my little quirks. This deluxe edition adds some new remixes, a couple of B-sides. Also the same ones are in 5.1. He couldn't find the master tapes for everything, so you get about 20 or so minutes of this in a new mix, and you get the B-sides. And also it features the complete performance of Incantations, performed live, 1979. I think this is exactly the same that was released on Incantation on on not Incantations, God, released on the live his first live album, the white one. God, Platinum Incantations. The name eludes me right now. It's so warm in here. Next up, yes, it is Tubular Bells, the original Tubular Bells. And yes, I love the original mix. Yes, I love the 2010 remix. Yes, I love the single 7-inch version. We get also the 5.1 surround remix. And here we also get part 1 of Tubular Bells, recorded live on BBC, December 73, with tons of members of Soft Machine, of Gong, of fellow Virgin Records bandmates. What to say? What more to say? What to say at all about Tubular Bells? Besides that it is a masterpiece. It is his first album. It was originally demoed on Kevin Ayers' old semi-working, semi-damaged 4-track or 2-track. He got lucky with everything. This was all recorded in downtime at the Manor. Faust was working on their Faust 4, and when they were too stoned or too tired, then Michael Oldfield went into the studio and worked. And they tried to shop this album around, everywhere. And in the end, Branson said, I'll release it if you add some vocals to it. So they added a little oohs and ahs from a woman or two, and Michael Oldfield drank himself drunk as a horse and did the caveman theme, which fans of Oldfield, of course, know is legendary. Next up, we have the amazing follow-up to Tubular Bells, released 74, and Mike have claimed that he weren't quite ready to record, but oh man, he was. Trust me, he was. The reason why I'm showing both this and this is the everlasting confusion of mixes. When this first was released in 74, Mike found out when he was gonna do Boxed 2 years after that the original mix was not good enough. So before the deluxe edition came out, every CD edition had the quad or the fold down mix of the quad version on CD, and everybody wanted to hear the original 1974 mix of this album. So Mike finally figured out, alright, I'll release the original mix again, and I'll also do a remix of it. And here he also even includes the entire unreleased demo of the entire album. And what more can I say that this is a true masterpiece of modern, contemporary, modern classical music or something like that. It just blows me away every time. So those of you who still are around will know which is my favorite Mike Oldfield album. Yes, it is Ommadawn, his third released album. The year is 1975. And what to say about this album that hasn't been said? It is a masterpiece. It's everything I want from a Mike Oldfield album. I can tell you this, I hated pan flutes until I heard this album. then I suddenly didn't mind pan flutes at all. But you know, I was thinking pan flutes in the way of you go into a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, and they play this real shitty pan flute music, pan pipe moods, and so forward. But Mike really, he knew how to use the instruments. Also the drums on the ending of part 1, there is a fun story regarding this. 3 crazy guys who playing drums all day, and we need more hashish, we need more hashish. So Branson or Oldfield or whoever it was giving what the Jabula were then their name. You could barely see them because they are not white people. And this theme is just stunningly beautiful. Everything on this album is just mwah! A 10 out of 10. And if you never have heard this album, go and put it on right now. Well, that's it. Have a nice day.